Part 177. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1771. Chapter 1765 Nightmare Prayer. The pillar of heaven was used again. But this time, Wu Yu attacked his master, Bodhi Patriarch. Such behavior was considered as a rebellious act by others, but in order to successfully take Luo Bin and the others away, this was the only way. Wu Yu could only defeat Bodhi Patriarch on the surface, which required the use of the power of the 7th level of the Eternal Emperor Immortal. As the Ruyi golden cudgel in his hand broke through the air, the golden light burst out, directly piercing the eyes of everyone in the well of eternal life. At this time, Wu Yu felt that some strong men suddenly descended above the well of eternal life. Those strong men were actually the heavenly soldiers and generals who came to capture him. They came all the way down from the well of eternal life, and there were simply countless of them. However, when they came here and saw Wu Yu fighting with Bodhi Patriarch, they all stopped behind and did not take action. This made Wu Yu's heart sink. With these heavenly soldiers and generals, even if Bodhi Patriarch pretended to be defeated by him, he would probably find it difficult to leave. After all, the heavenly soldiers and generals cooperated very well. Even if a single heavenly soldier and general was just an ordinary emperor, but when they were added together, the concept was different. If they formed a formation, these heavenly soldiers and generals could at least trap Wu Yu for a period of time, making him unable to escape. In this way, as long as other powerful people from the heavenly court came, Wu Yu would not be able to escape at all. But at this time, Wu Yu's Ruyi Jingbang was about to fall on Bodhi Patriarch. With the arrival of the heavenly soldiers and generals, Bodhi Patriarch muttered something in his mouth, and no one noticed what means he used. Then a familiar force swept towards the group of heavenly soldiers and generals. Is it a body-fixing technique? Feeling this familiar force, Wu Yu was stunned. But he didn't have time to be surprised at this time. Because the Ruyi Jingbang in his hand had already fallen on Bodhi Patriarch, and it seemed that Bodhi Patriarch was even knocked away. The terrifying power shook the entire well of eternal life. Go. Bodhi Patriarch sent him a message, and then he found that Luo Bin, Nanshan Wanjiao, and Yezixi had all been released. Wu Yu directly took them into the heaven-devouring emperor realm, and then looked back. But he saw that all the heavenly soldiers and generals were fixed on the spot by the immobilization spell at this time, and could only watch him escape from here. Bodhi Patriarch, why do you also have the immobilization spell? Wu Yu didn't have time to think about this question. After taking Luo Bin and the other three, he disappeared directly from the scene. In this case, he didn't dare to go to the Tianfo immortal realm. The only place he could go was the demon god realm. When the surrounding light flowed, the scene in front of Wu Yu changed, and his consciousness returned. Finally, he came to the demon god realm again. Wu Yu finally breathed a sigh of relief. After arriving at the demon god world, there shouldn't be too much danger in a short time, so he can still think about what happened just now. Bodhi Patriarch asked him to pretend to fight with him. As long as he defeated the Patriarch, he could take Luo Bin and the other two away. But at this time, the heavenly soldiers and generals suddenly arrived, but they were all fixed by Bodhi Patriarch with the immobilization technique. Then he pretended to be defeated by Wu Yu, which gave Wu Yu the opportunity to take Luo Bin and the other two directly back to the demon god world. Wu Yu thoroughly sorted out this process and finally found a key point. That is, why did Bodhi Patriarch also know the 72 transformations inherited by the Monkey King? That immobilization technique was exactly the same as what Wu Yu had learned, and it was used by Bodhi Patriarch to immobilize those heavenly soldiers and generals. Could it be that there is a certain connection between Bodhi Patriarch and the Monkey King? Wu Yu couldn't help but speculate. But at present, apart from being able to perform the immobilization technique, Bodhi Patriarch has not shown anything else. It would be a bit too arbitrary to conclude that there is a connection between Bodhi Patriarch and the Monkey King just based on this point. It's just that Wu Yu recalled that when he was hiding in the Eternal Emperor's burial, it was Bodhi Patriarch who called him to go to the heavenly court to become his disciple, which led to the opportunity he has now. From this point of view, Bodhi Patriarch may really be related to the Monkey King. Forget it, don't think about it for now. Wu Yu shook his head vigorously. For him now, it's useless to think about this thing. Even if all the clues are connected together, he still can't draw any conclusions. The information he has mastered so far is still too little. Anyway, I can confirm one thing now. Bodhi Patriarch is the only person I can trust in the heavenly court. Wu Yu confirmed this point, and then he planned to stay in the demon god realm and return to the Eternal Emperor's burial. After all, he can't go back to the heavenly court now. Once he goes, he will be caught by the whole heavenly court. It can be said that everyone will shout and beat him. He also knew that the trouble he caused this time was really a bit big. He actually ate all the peaches in the Queen Mother's peach garden. Although this was not because of him, it was related to Ming Long, and he could not betray Ming Long. So, this crime could only be borne by Wu Yu himself. It just so happens that the previous Holy Buddha relics and Holy Buddha remains have been completely devoured. Now if you want to upgrade, you can devour the Emperor Demon Corpse. Wu Yu returned to the Eternal Emperor burial. He first released Luo Bin and the other three. There is no doubt that all three of them were frightened. After Wu Yu's explanation, they finally understood what happened. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. No way. Miss Minglong actually merged with the devouring demon ancestor. Nanshan Wanjiao couldn't believe it at all, and widened her eyes. How can this be? Minglong is my goddess, and she is just like this. Don't worry too much, in short, it's not time to despair yet. Wu Yu thought of the time when she met the devouring demon ancestor, and there was still some tenderness in her eyes occasionally. This must be from Ming Long, not the devouring demon ancestor. This also means that Ming Long has not been completely merged. As long as she is brought back, there may be a way to get rid of the devouring demon ancestor. After all, Wu Yu has done similar things before. In the past, Zhuiying was occupied by the residual soul of the world-destroying infant demon, and he relied on the fairy formation of the Shenlong clan to make Zhuiying fully recover. Of course, Minglong's situation is more complicated now, and it is more difficult to solve her current situation than to rescue Zhuiying at that time. Fortunately, I left the soul-chasing yin on her before. At this time, Wu Yu was somewhat fortunate. At that time, he left the soul-chasing yin on the devouring demon ancestor, which was an object that could track the other party's location. No matter where the other party was, Wu Yu could rely on this soul-chasing yin to find her. This is the soul-chasing technique, one of the 72 transformations, and the effect is quite amazing. Until now, Wu Yu can sense the location of the devouring demon ancestor. Of course, because he has now come to the Eternal Emperor burial in the demon god realm, the perception is not particularly accurate. But as long as he returns to the heavenly court, he can immediately know the other party's location. Knowing her location, it is still not easy to catch her. After all, she can also do the somersault cloud. Wu Yu thought about it, and finally found that there is a way, which is to use the last change of the 72 changes, Nightmare Prayer Technique. The effect of this Nightmare Prayer Technique is to quickly control the opponent by reciting the satisfied prayer immortal text, making the opponent fall into endless illusions and temporarily lose combat effectiveness. When being controlled by the satisfied prayer immortal text, the opponent is basically in a completely psychedelic state, with a blank mind. If Wu Yu can practice and learn the Nightmare Prayer Technique and use the satisfied prayer immortal text to control the devouring demon ancestor, he is likely to successfully bring her back. Thinking of this, he immediately began to practice this Nightmare Prayer Technique. After all, the current situation is obviously very urgent. If you don't seize the time, I'm afraid that I don't know when the Jade Emperor will come to the demon god realm with the heavenly soldiers and generals. You know, the opponent has destroyed the demon god realm once. What's so strange about it again? Wu Yu has no doubt that the Jade Emperor can find him hiding in the demon god realm. Of course, it is also possible that he really can't find it. After all, the entire heavenly court now has no memory of the destruction of the demon god realm. If the Jade Emperor also had no memories, then he would be absolutely safe hiding in the demon god realm. Unfortunately, Wu Yu could not pin his hopes on this. No matter what he did, he had to hurry up. He began to recite the satisfied prayer immortal text day and night, practicing the nightmare prayer technique. During this period, he sometimes recited so hard that he felt dizzy and even fell into the illusion of the satisfied prayer immortal text. At this time, he could only pause and rest for a while. Of course, he did not waste time during this period of rest, but desperately relied on the netherworld technique to study the epic god formations in the Eternal Emperor's burial. Now he would not waste even a little time. Because the current situation is too tense. When he recovered from the illusion, he continued to recite the satisfied prayer immortal text, day and night without interruption. He practiced like this for 3,000 years. During these 3,000 years, he kept reciting the satisfied prayer immortal text and practicing the nightmare prayer technique. Once he fell into an illusion, he would pause for a while to study the epic god formation. Until 3,000 years had passed, he had recited the satisfied prayer immortal text for a total of hundreds of millions of times, and finally succeeded in practicing the nightmare prayer technique. Almost, it's time to act. After Wu Yu successfully practiced the nightmare prayer technique, he planned to set out to capture the devouring demon ancestor without delay. After all, Ming Long's soul was still in that body. If he didn't bring her back as soon as possible, it was very likely that the next time he saw her, there would be no part of Ming Long's breath. This made Wu Yu very nervous. In any case, he would never let Ming Long disappear like this. Change. When Wu Yu was ready to leave, he directly changed into a very ordinary immortal with the simulated transformation of the devouring heaven beast. Then, he quietly returned to the heavenly palace immortal realm alone and began to concentrate on sensing the location of the devouring heaven demon ancestor. Soon, he felt that his soul-chasing guide was moving in the heavenly palace, and he found the other party's location. Without hesitation, he rushed to the Chongtian Palace where the devouring demon ancestor was. At 8 p.m., 1,000 red envelopes were sent out, but they were quickly snatched up. There will be more tomorrow night. Hurry up and follow the madman's WeChat account Feng Qingyang. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 1772. Wu Yu transformed into an ordinary immortal and traveled through the 8,000 heavenly palaces. When he was in the heavenly palace, he could see that there were heavenly soldiers and generals everywhere searching for his traces. Unfortunately, he was now disguised as an ordinary immortal, and the other party could not recognize him at all. Of course, even so, Wu Yu was still cautious and did not dare to be careless. He moved from the well of eternal life and soon headed in the direction of the devouring demon ancestor. Along the way, he kept asking for news around him. He found that the entire heavenly palace was now wanted for him. Not only were there many heavenly soldiers and generals searching for him, but even many other ordinary immortals were searching for his traces everywhere. Obviously, the incident Wu Yu caused this time was too big. The Jade Emperor, the Queen Mother, and many other top emperors were furious. For the immortals who could find Wu Yu's traces, they all offered excellent conditions and rewards, which inspired the immortals of the entire heavenly palace to join the army searching for Wu Yu. Of course, in addition to Wu Yu, there were Luo Ben, Nanshan Wanjiao, and Yezixi. As long as he finds any one of the four of them, he will be rewarded by the Jade Emperor, which will make countless gods take action. Wu Yu was very careful along the way. He knew that he had become a criminal. Once caught, he would be thrown into the heavenly prison, and his ending would be even more miserable. After all, he was the culprit, and what he had done was a great provocation to the entire heavenly rules. Soon, Wu Yu performed the soul-chasing technique and followed the soul-chasing guide to a heavenly palace full of fog. This heavenly palace, located in the middle of the 8,000 heavenly palaces, is a very inconspicuous place. Wu Yu plunged directly into the fog and found that this was a heavenly palace with few people. It is very likely that the devouring demon ancestor was hiding here, slowly digesting the immortal spirit from the peaches. Until now, he still has a large amount of peach spirit stored in his devouring emperor realm. These are the capital he intends to use for future cultivation and improvement, and it is impossible to burn them in battle. When he was fighting with Yang Jian and Neza before, he just burned up the peach spirit that was about to burst his body, but there was still peach spirit stored in the heaven-devouring emperor realm. You have to know that Wu Yu is in the emperor immortal realm, and he has not been able to consume all the peach spirit for such a long time. The heaven-devouring demon ancestor is naturally not so easy to digest. Following the soul chaser, Wu Yu quietly approached the location of the heaven-devouring demon ancestor. Obviously, the opponent did not expect that Wu Yu would catch up with him hiding in this foggy heavenly palace. When Wu Yu was ready to take action and confirmed the opponent's position, he immediately performed the nightmare prayer. As Wu Yu recited the nightmare prayer immortal text over and over again, a layer of illusions continued to cover the heaven-devouring demon ancestor. At this moment, the heaven-devouring demon ancestor was still at the critical moment of breaking through to the emperor immortal realm. How could he have expected these countless illusions that came out of nowhere? At that moment, the devouring demon ancestor was completely trapped in endless illusions, his eyes became dull, and he completely lost the ability to think. Seeing this, Wu Yu did not hesitate to capture her directly into the devouring emperor realm. As long as she was in the devouring emperor realm, Wu Yu could recite the nightmare prayer immortal text to keep her in a dull state, unable to think, and deeply trapped in illusions. Wu Yu took her lotus holy body and left the heavenly court directly. As for the heavenly soldiers and generals and many gods who were searching for him in the entire heavenly court, Wu Yu naturally ignored them. Anyway, no matter how long they searched here, they could not find his trace. Unless the Jade Emperor personally went to the demon god realm, it would be possible to find his hiding place. Wu Yu quickly returned to the Eternal Emperor burial. He released the devouring demon ancestor's body and locked it in the Eternal Emperor burial. Anyway, without the bronze ball, she could not leave the Eternal Emperor burial no matter what. However, Wu Yu still transformed into tens of thousands of clones, and let these clones take turns to recite the nightmare prayer immortal text, so that the devouring demon ancestor remained in a sluggish state. Countless illusions enveloped her one after another, making it impossible for her to regain consciousness. At this time, Wu Yu had to find a way to separate the two souls in this body. As for the devouring demon ancestor, he naturally had to completely eliminate and separate them. Wu Yu wanted Minglong's soul to control this body alone. In the Eternal Emperor burial, Luo Bin, Nanshan Wanjiao, and Yezixi also came together to help Wu Yu think of ideas. Unfortunately, Minglong's condition is very bad now, and the situation is extremely complicated. Even Wu Yu, who had solved similar problems before, was at a loss after seeing her current situation. Huao Huangjun and Nangong Wei, he had used the exorcism technique to deal with them, and he almost succeeded at that time, but unfortunately the two of them could only coexist later. By now, it seems that Nangong Wei's soul has become weaker and occupies a very small part in her body. The most successful one was the time when Zhu separated the residual soul of the world-destroying infant demon and the soul-devouring soul of the Hell Dragon King from his body. That was with the help of the immortal formation learned from the Dragon Clan. But in Minglong's current situation, even the immortal formation will definitely not work. After all, Minglong's situation is more complicated. Her soul and the devouring demon ancestor's soul can be said to have merged together, and it is no longer possible to separate them by ordinary methods. It seems that there is no way for the time being. Wu Yu has studied for hundreds of years, but has not found a solution to this problem, so he can only give up for the time being. In this case, I'd better go to the Heavenly Palace to get some information. Maybe I can find out who can help me, Nanshan Wanjiao finally proposed when he saw this situation. Wouldn't it be very dangerous for you to go back to the Heavenly Palace, Yezixi said with some concern. Although she usually has no good face towards Nanshan Wanjiao, she actually cares about him very much. After all, they have been practicing and improving together for so long. It doesn't matter. I am a man with means. How can I be caught by them so easily? Nanshan Wanjiao smiled and didn't take those heavenly soldiers and generals to heart at all. Now he has been promoted to the realm of Emperor Immortal, and the magical powers he originally practiced have also been recultivated into the magical powers of the Emperor Dao. Like Wu Yu's magical powers, each magical power has been cultivated to the extreme by him, and the effect is extremely amazing. Nanshan Wanjiao wants to go back to the Heavenly Palace to get information, and his biggest reliance is his Emperor Dao magical power Heavenly Domain No Trace. Now that the Heavenly Domain No Trace is being used, even Wu Yu cannot detect his existence. Wu Yu even feels that even Yang Jian and Neza cannot find him when they walk next to him. This is equivalent to an absolute means of invisibility. Even Wu Yu is somewhat envious of his means. Relying on this means, he can completely appear and disappear in the heavenly court without being discovered by anyone. Moreover, he also knows some basic transformation techniques. Although it is not as effective as Wu Yu's simulation from the sky-devouring beast, it is still no problem to deceive some ordinary beings. In this case, Wu Yu let him go back to the heavenly court. Of course, everything must be done carefully. After all, once a mistake is made, the end is irreparable. He, don't worry, wait for me to bring you good news. In addition, this time I have to harm more fairies, and it is very likely that there will be no chance in the future. Nanshan Wanjiao smiled obscenely. Yezixi immediately frowned. I'm afraid this is your original purpose, so wretched. How can this be called wretched? It's clearly romantic and handsome. Nanshan Wanjiao laughed and left the demon god realm. After he left, Luo Bin and Yezixi could only practice on their own. And Wu Yu also had to calm down and practice first. After all, he had returned to the Eternal Emperor's burial. In this Eternal Emperor's burial, there were a large number of Emperor demon corpses that he could devour to improve. In addition, his heaven-devouring Emperor realm also stored a lot of peach spirits, which was enough for him to continue practicing and improving. So, he continued to practice. Now in his Emperor realm, there is reincarnation and hell, there is heaven, there are gods and ghosts. This makes his heaven-devouring Emperor realm equivalent to a small world. However, in the current heaven-devouring Emperor realm, everything is still in a relatively primitive state. Those mortals, gods, and ghosts do not have many rules for cultivation. They rely entirely on the rich immortal spirit to rush up. After all, in the heaven-devouring Emperor realm, Wu Yu swallowed too much peach spirit and stored it all here. Especially in the heavenly realm of the heaven-devouring Emperor realm, it is almost filled with rich peach spirit. The sixth level of the Emperor Immortal is called the River of Time. Wu Yu began to crack more epical divine formations, and then swallowed the corpse of the Emperor Demon. He soon discovered that the key to the sixth level of the Emperor Immortal is to create a river of time in his own Emperor realm. The existence of this river of time can change the speed of time in the Emperor realm. If the time in the Emperor realm is made 10 times faster, then the speed of mortals in the Emperor realm becoming immortals will be 10 times faster. If the time is made 100 times faster, then the speed of mortals becoming immortals will be 100 times faster. This is a great improvement for the Emperor Immortal. After all, the more mortals in their Emperor realm become immortals, the stronger their own power will be. As more and more gods and immortals appeared in the imperial realm, Wu Yu's own power would certainly become stronger and stronger. He created some clones, and constantly performed nightmare prayers on the devouring demon ancestor, chanting the nightmare prayer immortal text, keeping the devouring demon ancestor in a state of chaos and unconsciousness. And he himself calmed down and immersed himself in the creation of the river of time. In the eternal emperor burial, there were enough corpses of the eternal emperor demon for him to devour. In the heaven of his devouring emperor realm, there were also enough peach spirits stored for him to use for cultivation. And this time he practiced, 100,000 years passed in a flash. 100,000 years allowed him to create the river of time in the imperial realm through continuous comprehension, exploration, and cultivation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1773. The appearance of the river of time increased the speed of time in Wu Yu's imperial realm by 10 times. In this way, as time goes by, Wu Yu's combat power will become stronger and stronger, because the number of immortals in his imperial realm will increase, and the speed of appearance will even be 10 times faster than before. The lifespan of ordinary immortals can also survive for a long time. Even if they don't become emperor immortals, the first batch of immortals in Wu Yu's imperial realm have not died yet. And even if they die, they can enter reincarnation, and there are many other mortals who cultivate to become immortals. The more immortals there are in Wu Yu's swallowing heaven imperial realm, the more obvious his strength will be improved. And the most important point is that with the appearance of the river of time in Wu Yu's swallowing heaven imperial realm, he has finally entered the 6th level of the immortal emperor realm. In these 100,000 years, he devoured hundreds of emperor demon corpses, and with the help of the peach spirit stored in the imperial realm, he finally achieved this breakthrough. This made his combat power surge again. At this time, if he faces opponents of Yang Jian and Neza's level again, he probably doesn't need to use burning means to deal with them easily. And the upper limit of the strength of the opponents he can defeat has also been improved. In fact, he can already sweep the entire heaven, compared with many ancient powers. Of course, Wu Yu is not very clear about the strength of the top emperors in the heaven, but he feels that there are not many emperors in the whole heaven who can be his opponents. And this is entirely because of the ability to devour. If it weren't for the devouring ability of the swallowing beast, Wu Yu would never have been able to construct the river of time in just 100,000 years. During this period of time, Nanshan Wanjiao would come back every once in a while, and basically didn't bring any news. But after so much time, Wu Yu can be sure that the Jade Emperor will definitely not be able to find himself hiding in the demon god world. So, it is very likely that the Jade Emperor has also lost the memory of destroying the demon world. But if he lost his memory, why did he confer me the title of Great Sage equaling heaven and reward me with Saint equaling heaven? Wu Yu always felt that the Jade Emperor's move made sense and must be hiding something. Unfortunately, he still couldn't see through it until now. 10,000 years have passed, and Wu Yu has been keeping his clone chanting the nightmare prayer immortal text, keeping the devouring demon ancestor in chaos, and his consciousness has fallen into thousands of illusions, and he can't return at all. During this time, Wu Yu has been thinking about whether there is any way to solve her current state, but unfortunately, there is no good way. He also tried to find it from the vague memories of all the gods, saints, and emperors of demons that he had swallowed, but he didn't find any similar situation. This made him a little desperate. But at this time, Nanshan Wanjiao suddenly returned from the heaven and brought Wu Yu a good news happily. Old Wu, after 100,000 years, I finally got some news for you in the heavenly palace. Maybe it can help Miss Ming Long. Nanshan Wanjiao came back with a smile on his face. Oh? What's the news? Nanshan Wanjiao's loud voice directly attracted Luo Ben and Yezixi. After all, 100,000 years have passed, and they have even greatly improved their cultivation realm under Wu Yu's inheritance. But there is still no way to deal with Ming Long. Nanshan Wanjiao did not keep the suspense, and said directly, I got a person in the heavenly palace, whose name is Xuanhuan Bodhisattva. This Xuanhuan Bodhisattva should be able to help. Then, he told all the news he got. This Xuanhuan Bodhisattva does not live in the heavenly palace, but in a separate South Sea realm. He is an extremely ancient and mysterious top immortal. Even this Xuanhuan Bodhisattva is said to be close to the level of the Jade Emperor, more mysterious and powerful than Bodhi Patriarch. Anyway, even the Queen Mother is not his opponent. Of course, it does not mean that the stronger the Emperor Immortal is, the more likely it is to solve the problem that Ming Long is facing now. But this Xuanhuan Bodhisattva has an epic artifact called the Pure Bottle. In that pure bottle, there is the Yangzi Yulu, which is the supreme treasure that can purify all evil and evil souls. It is said that there was once an emperor demon who used the Tao heart planting demon method to invade the immortal god of the son of an emperor immortal. That emperor immortal found Xuanhuan Bodhisattva and only asked for a drop of Yangzi Yulu, and he actually directly took the essence of the evil soul. There is also a rumor that Xuanhuan Bodhisattva has an extremely huge real body, with thousands of arms, ranking at the top of the heavens, and is almost omnipotent. But recently it seems that it has not appeared for millions of years, and it has been forgotten. There are only some sporadic records in the extremely ancient Emperor Immortals or classics in the heavenly court. It was not easy for Nanshan Wanjiao to find this information. But now, it is unknown whether the Xuanhuan Bodhisattva still exists in the world. Old Wu, do you know what the most important thing is? Nanshan Wanjiao became very excited when he said this. The key is that this Xuanhuan Bodhisattva is not even under the jurisdiction of the Jade Emperor, and does not belong to the heavenly court. The rules of heaven have no binding force on him. Even the Jade Emperor can't control him. After hearing this, Wu Yu felt that this Xuanhuan Bodhisattva was really an extremely powerful existence. Even Nanshan Wanjiao said that in some rumors and classics, even the Jade Emperor was very respectful when he met the Xuanhuan Bodhisattva. This is very magical. Moreover, he heard Nanshan Wanjiao's description of the extremely huge real body, with thousands of arms, and even mortals living in the real body. Why do these characteristics sound so much like the Holy Buddha? The Holy Buddhas he met in the heavenly Buddha immortal realm were all like this. They had huge real bodies in the Buddha realm, and there were countless mortals living in the Buddha realm. Anyway, this is a way. Nanshan Wanjiao spread his hands. Anyway, after searching the whole heaven, Xuanhuan Bodhisattva may be able to solve Minglong's current problem. And speaking of it, the heaven-swallowing demon ancestor should be regarded as an evil thing, right? Then Xuanhuan Bodhisattva's Yangzi Yulu, it has appeared in many classics, and the effect must be very good. Although it's just some scattered news, the credibility is definitely not low. Nanshan Wanjiao finally concluded. Wu Yu nodded. In this case, there is no other way. We can only take Ming Long to search for the South China Sea. If we can find the Xuanhuan Bodhisattva and he is willing to help, that would be great. For Ming Long, this is no longer possible. With almost no preparation required, Wu Yu immediately took Ming Long with him and planned to set off. At 12 o'clock in the evening, 4 chapters of Holy Dragon Totem will be updated. Remember to read. Later, there should still be Tian Tianji. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1774. Nanshan Wanjiao not only found out about the news about Xuanhuan Bodhisattva, but also found out the location of the South Sea Realm. The gate of the South Sea Realm is located in the first heaven, which is the lowest level of the heavenly palace. However, in this first heaven, there is a place that ordinary immortals can never reach, called the South Sea region. Surrounding the South Sea region, there are endless epical divine arrays. These epical divine arrays form an extremely vast killing area. Once someone breaks in, they will launch an offensive against them and strangle the intruder. These epical divine arrays are of various types and extremely complex. It is extremely difficult to crack them. Only a very small number of Emperor Immortals can crack some of the epical divine arrays. As for those who can crack all of these epical divine arrays, the entire heavenly palace no longer exists. However, when Wu Yu arrived, he suddenly discovered that he could basically crack all the epical divine arrays in the South Sea region. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. The main reason is that he has studied too many types of epical divine arrays with the help of the bronze ball in the Eternal Emperor's Burial, including some extremely ancient epical divine arrays, which he has the ability to crack. And a large part of the epical divine arrays around the South China Sea happened to be studied and cracked by Wu Yu. Of course, Wu Yu did not think that there was any coincidence between the Eternal Emperor's Burial and the South China Sea. After all, many emperors and immortals would set up epical divine arrays, such as the Storm Silver Blade Ball, etc., and the Jade Emperor would also set up epical divine arrays. It cannot be said that the appearance of these epical divine arrays in the South China Sea is related to the Eternal Emperor's burial. Wu Yu did not have any wild thoughts. After he came to the first heaven, he quietly approached the South China Sea and began to crack those epical divine arrays. If you want to enter the South Sea realm, you must first crack these epical divine arrays. Xuanhuan Bodhisattva has not appeared for too long. Wu Yu is not sure whether he can really find him after these epical divine arrays are cracked. He simulated the transformation into an ordinary immortal and wandered around the South Sea. During this period, many immortals saw him, but none of them suspected him. It was not until 3,000 years later that Wu Yu finally cracked all the epical divine arrays on the road leading to the gate of the South Sea realm in the South Sea realm. Then, a hazy white light appeared in front of him. In the back, those epical divine arrays reappeared again after being cracked. It was not so easy for Wu Yu to leave. So he had to move forward now. This ball of white light should be the gate of the South Sea realm. Wu Yu could only guess this way. He had come here with Minglong's lotus holy body, so there was no reason to retreat. He stepped into the hazy white light, but found that this place was not the South Sea realm, but just a special space. In this space, two childlike emperors appeared in front of him. However, the appearance of these two top emperors was a bit strange. They were both children, like a pair of golden boy and jade girl. One of them had a body of gold and the other had a body of white jade. It was hard to imagine that such a child could be a top emperor, even surpassing many emperors in the heavens. This pair of golden boy and jade girl seemed to be a little curious about Wu Yu and asked him what he was doing here. Wu Yu gestured to Ming Long's lotus holy body, told him about the soul of the devouring demon ancestor, and then said at last, "I want to see Xuanhuan Bodhisattva. I wonder if Xuanhuan Bodhisattva can help purify the soul of the devouring demon ancestor." The golden boy and jade girl nodded, as if they had communicated with some supreme existence, and then nodded each other. The Bodhisattva agreed, "You come with me." The golden boy and jade girl acted together, and took Wu Yu and Ming Long's body through a gate that could not be seen by the naked eye. That was the real gate to the South Sea realm. If it weren't for this golden boy and jade girl leading the way, Wu Yu would never have found that gate even if he wandered around here for 1,000,000 years. After passing through this gate, Wu Yu came to a white fog world. Then, when Wu Yu raised his head, he saw a spectacular scene. In this white fog world, there was actually an extremely huge Buddha realm. The size of this white Buddha realm was almost 3 times larger than Xuanzang's Buddha realm in the Tianfo immortal realm. Of course, there were a total of 9 golden Buddha realms of the Supreme Buddha Xuanzang, so it was really impossible to judge which of the two sides was stronger or weaker based on this. In any case, Wu Yu finally came to the South Sea realm. Moreover, when he saw the white Buddha realm, he could find that on the surface of the huge white Buddha realm, there were many mortals and ordinary Buddhas living. Those ordinary Buddhas all cultivated white bodies and Buddha bodies, which were completely different from those holy Buddhas in the Tianfo immortal realm. Moreover, this huge white Buddha world was filled with harmonious and kind Buddhas. Looking around, one could feel that this entire world was a perfect world, without disputes or violence, and the entire atmosphere was peaceful. Please. The golden boy and jade girl pointed at the white Buddha world, signaling Wu Yu to enter. Wu Yu nodded, flew forward, entered the white Buddha world, and merged into it. Not long after, a young woman in white clothes with an ordinary appearance slowly emerged from the white mist and came in front of Wu Yu. She looks very holy, has a peaceful aura, and looks very solemn. Wu Yu guessed that she should be the Xuanhuan Bodhisattva. On the surface, she looks like a saintly woman. Her aura is different from that of many emperors and immortals in heaven, giving people a sacred feeling. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Seeing her, Wu Yu even had the urge to worship her. Junior Wu Yu, dare I ask my senior if he is Xuanhuan Bodhisattva? Wu Yu immediately saluted the woman. Exactly. Wu Yu, you don't have to be polite, why don't you tell me what you are here for? The young woman is none other than Xuanhuan Bodhisattva. She is holy and solemn. Although she is close at hand, she seems to be bathing in the clouds, giving people a feeling of being far away. With a gentle smile on her face, she asked Wu Yu. Therefore, Wu Yu introduced Minglong and explained everything about Minglong in detail. Including that from the very beginning, Minglong remained in the Ruyi golden cudgel, and later the heaven-swallowing demon ancestor was sealed into the Ruyi golden cudgel. In the end, both of them entered the lotus body created by Tei Jinren. It can be said that resurrected together. This story can be said to be quite tortuous. However, Wu Yu's explanation was relatively easy to understand. After hearing these words, Xuanhuan Bodhisattva said gently, I can help you with this matter. But Wu Yu, you also need to agree to a condition. What are the conditions? Bodhisattva, please tell me, Wu Yu asked immediately. For him, in order to truly resurrect Minglong and completely purify the soul of the heaven-devouring demon ancestor from the lotus sacred body, he would consider it no matter what the conditions were. That is, you need to wear this era artifact called the golden hoop. Xuanhuan Bodhisattva took out a golden headband and showed it in front of Wu Yu, smiling slightly. Golden hoop? Wu Yu had never heard of such a thing, and he couldn't help but feel a little confused. He asked, what will happen to me after wearing this golden hoop? After all, it was an epic artifact that was to be worn on his body, so he had to ask carefully. After you put on this golden hoop, if you do something wrong, I can recite the tightening mantra to punish you. Of course, if you don't do anything wrong, I will naturally not punish you. Xuanhuan Bodhisattva is serious. Said. Golden hoop, tight hoop. Wu Yu frowned slightly after hearing this. He felt that the golden hoop and the tightening curse seemed to be a great threat to him. Once you put on that golden hoop, your life and death will most likely be controlled by Xuanhuan Bodhisattva. Wu Yu's first reaction was to refuse. But before he could refuse, Xuanhuan Bodhisattva continued, I heard about you secretly eating heavenly flat peaches. This shows that your character is still a bit naughty, or you may have lost control. In any case, once you lose if you control it, you may harm all sentient beings. What's more, the other side of your body is the heaven-devouring demon ancestor in Jambu world. I also know a little about what the heaven-devouring demon ancestor did. What if one day you lose your mind, act recklessly, and devour all things? The seed can be controlled with a golden hoop. Wu Yu, what do you think? After Xuanhuan Bodhisattva said all this, there was no doubt that it had a certain psychological impact on Wu Yu. He did not expect that Xuanhuan Bodhisattva even knew everything about the heaven-swallowing demon ancestor in Jambu world. Obviously, She probably also knew that the reason why she stole all the flat peaches in heaven was probably because of the heaven-swallowing giant beast. This made Wu Yu still a little difficult to decide. After all, he still had to think carefully about handing over his freedom to a powerful being that he had just met. What's more, this may not only be related to freedom, but also life. Only. Wu Yu glanced at Ming Long and knew that her state was very unstable now. Once she stops reciting the nightmare prayer immortal mantra, the part of her soul that belongs to the heaven-devouring demon ancestor will appear, allowing her to escape directly. And by this time, the heaven-devouring demon ancestor must have learned of the existence of soul-chasing yin. If she escapes, it won't be that easy to catch her again. Besides, this Xuanhuan Bodhisattva looks so holy and pure, so he shouldn't be a bad person. Wu Yu thought of everything he had seen and heard since arriving in the South China Sea. The South China Sea world where Xuanhuan Bodhisattva is located is surrounded by white mist, and the huge body of the Buddha world is pure white. The entire Buddha world is harmonious, stable, solemn, and full of a calming flavor. All the events in the South China Sea made Wu Yu have more trust in Xuanhuan Bodhisattva. This kind of trust is completely based on the observation of the entire South China Sea world, and it is not an unfounded trust. Finally, Wu Yu nodded solemnly. Okay, Junior Wu Yu is willing to wear the golden hoop in exchange for Senior's help in purifying the soul of the heaven-swallowing demon ancestor. As soon as he agreed, Xuanhuan Bodhisattva smiled. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1775. When Wu Yu agreed to wear the golden hoop, Xuanhuan Bodhisattva smiled slightly. I put this golden hoop on you, all for the sake of all living beings. As she spoke, she put the golden hoop on Wu Yu's head. The size of the golden hoop was just right. After putting it on, Wu Yu could hardly feel its existence. However, he soon discovered that after putting it on, he could not take it off for a while, and he could not help but feel a little depressed. He originally thought that if he wanted to take it off, he could still take it off. But after putting it on, he found that the golden hoop was actually integrated with his head. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. If you want to take off the golden hoop by force, even if you cut off his head, it is impossible to do it. When he first put it on, Wu Yu felt uneasy. But he soon discovered that Xuanhuan Bodhisattva did not take any measures against him immediately. It seemed that it was really as she said. Only when he lost his mind would he recite the tightening curse to control his behavior. Then, Xuanhuan Bodhisattva did not waste time and directly took out the epic artifact purifying bottle. She lightly tapped her delicate hands and took out several drops of Yangzi Yola from the purifying bottle. These Yangzi Yola fell directly on Minglong's lotus holy body, and then turned into the most refined purifying spiritual energy and penetrated into the lotus holy body. At the beginning, the devouring demon ancestor did not react. But not long after, as Yangzi Yola penetrated more and more into the lotus holy body, it finally touched the soul of the devouring demon ancestor hidden deep inside. The purifying power of Yangzi Yola brought great pain to the devouring demon ancestor. Ah! The lotus holy body instantly turned into a white-haired and blood-red appearance, and struggled madly at this time. Her face was as pale as a ghost, and a special white smoke came out of her body. This white smoke is the soul of the devouring demon ancestor being gradually purified by the Yangzi Yola. No, no. The devouring demon ancestor felt the purifying power from the Yangzi Yola and fell into extreme fear. She had a premonition that she seemed to be completely destroyed today, which made her very unwilling. Her blood-red eyes gradually lost their color, and her eyeballs turned pale. She stared at Wu Yu in front of her, opening her mouth as if she wanted to say something. But as the purifying aura of the Yangzi Yola spread to Minglong's body, her entire lotus body began to emit white smoke. This white smoke is the soul of the devouring demon ancestor being completely purified. Not long after, the screams of the devouring demon ancestor became lighter and lighter, and he became weaker and weaker. This scene made Wu Yu a little excited and frightened, fearing that Xuanhuan Bodhisattva would fail to purify the devouring demon ancestor. But as the white hair and blood eyes of the lotus saint body gradually returned to normal black hair and black eyes, Wu Yu's heart finally settled down. Seeing the confusion gradually emerging in her eyes, and the joy after seeing Wu Yu knew that the current Ming Long was the complete Ming Long. In this lotus saint body, there was no longer any trace of the devouring heaven demon ancestor's existence, and everything about her was wiped out by Xuanhuan Bodhisattva with Yangzi Yulu. Wu Yu. Ming Long slowly regained consciousness, and when he saw Wu Yu, a weak smile appeared on his face. "It's me, Ming Long, how do you feel?" Wu Yu was a little excited, and this feeling was almost the same as when Tai Genren just resurrected her. And now, this feeling of excitement is even stronger, because he has made a lot of efforts for this, and even put a golden hoop on his head. "It's okay, just a little weak." Ming Long glanced at Wu Yu and saw the golden hoop on his head. He couldn't help asking, "What is this? It looks silly." Wu Yu didn't expect that she would notice the golden hoop on his head at first sight. There was no need to explain this thing to her. He could only explain it simply, "This is just the epic artifact that Xuanhuan Bodhisattva put on me for my own good. If I lose control in the future, Xuanhuan Bodhisattva can recite the Tide Hoop spell to control my behavior so that I won't harm the people. By the way, this is Xuanhuan Bodhisattva. She completely purified the soul of the devouring demon ancestor in your body. Otherwise, you will be completely merged by the devouring demon ancestor sooner or later." Wu Yu introduced Xuanhuan Bodhisattva. Ming Long nodded. She roughly understood the situation. It must be that Wu Yu was willing to wear the silly-looking golden hoop in order to save her. This touched her very much. When Wu Yu first resurrected her, he was even willing to give up his Ruyi Jinggubang. Now, he is giving up his freedom. Ming Long felt a little useless. But now that she has been resurrected, she must work hard to help Wu Yu. However, she is a little weak now and can't help Wu Yu much. What's more, when she was caught by Wu Yu with the Soul Chaser, she was rushing to the Emperor Immortal realm. During this period, she was controlled by the nightmare prayer technique and had no time to practice, resulting in her not reaching the Emperor Immortal yet. With Wu Yu's current realm and strength, if she has not reached the Emperor Immortal, it will be difficult for her to help. "Avalakai Tesvara, since Ming Long has recovered, I will take her back first," Wu Yu said respectfully to Avalakai Tesvara. At this time, he was still a little nervous. After all, he had a golden hoop on his head. Although he guessed that Xuanhuan Bodhisattva had no ill will towards him, if something went wrong, he would be doomed. Fortunately, Xuanhuan Bodhisattva obviously had no idea about them, and everything he said before was completely true. When Wu Yu said goodbye, Xuanhuan Bodhisattva nodded, "Go." So Wu Yu let Ming Long enter his Tian Emperor realm, stay in the heaven to practice first, strive to continue practicing, and break through to the Emperor Immortal. Then he was ready to leave here. What he didn't notice was that Xuanhuan Bodhisattva looked at his back as he left, and a complex emotion was revealed in her clear eyes. It was a look of hope, as if she had some expectations for Wu Yu, but at the same time there were some worries. As for what she was worried about, no one would know. Wu Yu took Ming Long to Tian Emperor realm, and then left Xuanhuan Bodhisattva's huge white Buddha realm. Next, of course, he could only return to the demon god realm and continue practicing in the eternal emperor burial. But just when he returned to the South Sea and wanted to leave, the Golden Boy, one of the two boys of Xuanhuan Bodhisattva, the Good Fortune Boy, came to him and reminded him, "This place has been surrounded by the emperors of the heavenly court. It may not be so easy for you to leave." This made Wu Yu's face change slightly. He didn't expect that his whereabouts would be revealed in just a short while. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1776. Wu Yu asked Shan Ke Tongzi if he knew who leaked his whereabouts. But Jinteng replied that he didn't know, but just reminded him that there were many powerful emperors outside who had surrounded this place, many of whom were at the level of Yang Jian. If they were all at the level of Yang Jian, I wouldn't be afraid. Wu Yu sneered and followed Shan Ke Tongzi to the outside of the South China Sea. When he was at the 5th level of the Eternal Emperor, he was able to defeat the combination of Yang Jian and Neza. Now, after 100,000 years of cultivation, he has created the river of time in the heaven-devouring Emperor realm, allowing him to enter the 6th level of the Eternal Emperor, and his strength has greatly increased. When he met the emperors of the level of Yang Jian and Neza again, he was not afraid at all. When he left the South China Sea, Shan Ke Tongzi did not follow him, but just sent him out. Then, Wu Yu saw countless heavenly soldiers and generals outside, who had surrounded the entire world. Every one of these heavenly soldiers and generals was an emperor who could live forever. Although their realm is not very high, once their number increases, it is still very scary if they launch some joint immortal formation offensives. Especially in front of these heavenly soldiers and generals, there are many powerful emperors that Wu Yu has seen. Among them, there are Erlang Shen Yang Jian, the great god of the three altars and seas, Neza, and even the pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li Jing. In addition to the three of them, there are also two emperors of the same level as them, the Eastern Kongjin Holy Emperor and the Central Huangji Huangjiao Great Immortal, who are all staring at Wu Yu outside. In addition, the four heavenly kings of the South Heaven Gate are also present, and Lei Gong and Dian Mu are also standing by, exuding infinite power. 36 heavenly generals gathered on the side, glaring at Wu Yu. There are also emperors such as the ancient giant spirit god, the Eastern Taibei Jinda Zhenjun, etc., who walk with the four heavenly kings and look at Wu Yu coldly. In the eyes of these emperors now, Wu Yu is the most heinous criminal in the entire heaven. The biggest mistake he made was not stealing all the peaches in the peach garden, but running away after stealing them, and even fighting with Yang Jian and Neza along the way, defeating them both, greatly undermining the authority of the heavenly court. Therefore, in the eyes of these emperors and immortals, Wu Yu was a traitor and could not be forgiven at all. Wu Yu. The loud shouts came from the immortal court, almost bursting Wu Yu's ears. As soon as these emperors and immortals saw Wu Yu, they showed no mercy. The Eastern Kongjin Saint Emperor was the Lord of Kongjin Heaven. In Wu Yu's eyes, he was also a respected senior. But at this time, Dongfang Kongjin Saint Emperor had no expression on his face and announced to Wu Yu *, Wu Yu. Not only did you steal the peaches and commit a serious mistake, but you also fled for fear of crime. Your crime is extremely serious. If you don't surrender as soon as possible and come with us to sincerely confess your crime to the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother, you will have no choice but to die. That's right. Erlang Shen Yang Jian was defeated by Wu Yu before and felt humiliated. At this time, with so many emperors together, he didn't think he would lose to Wu Yu, so he snorted coldly and said, "The Jade Emperor didn't come down to arrest you personally, but to give you a chance to reform. Why don't you surrender quickly and come with us to the heavenly court to confess your crime in person?" Wu Yu didn't take the remarks of these emperors seriously at all. Because among these emperors, none of them could make him look up to them, that is, the pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li Jing, which is at the same level as Yang Jian and Neza. He could have defeated this level of emperor earlier, and now that his strength has skyrocketed, he is not afraid of any of them. Moreover, if he wanted to leave, how could these emperors stop him? As long as he remained alert and had the somersault cloud magic power, the other party had no chance to catch him. If he wanted to leave, he could leave at any time. Wu Yu had just purified the soul of the devouring demon ancestor in Minglong's body, and didn't want to waste more time here, so he turned around and planned to leave. But at this moment, Erlang Shenyang Jian suddenly said, "Your sister Wu Yu is suffering in the heavenly prison at this moment. If you don't surrender and follow us to the heavenly court to meet the Jade Emperor, your sister will never have peace and will be tortured forever." His words made Wu Yu's mind explode. He almost couldn't believe that the Jade Emperor would actually attack his sister Wu Yu. You know, his sister Wu Yu is just an ordinary and insignificant immortal in the heavenly court. In the entire heaven, there are hundreds of millions of immortals like Wu Yu. Such immortals are dying and being born every moment. In the world of Emperor immortals, they are just like mortals. No matter what kind of immortals they are, as long as they have not set foot on the level of Emperor immortals, they will never be able to enter the eyes of the great figures in the heaven. Even Yang Jian, the son of Yang Jian, and Li Tianji, the grandson of Li Jing, when they did not reach the level of Emperor immortals, even if they were highly regarded, they could not say anything at all at the level of real Emperor immortals. What's more, it is a figure like the Jade Emperor. But even the Jade Emperor, the top Emperor immortal in the heaven, who controls the entire heaven, would have such a small pattern, and be so despicable as to attack an ordinary immortal and put her in the heavenly prison to torture her. This was completely beyond Wu Yu's expectations. It has to be said that this was a big oversight of Wu Yu, but in fact, he did not expect the Jade Emperor to do such a thing. If this kind of thing spreads, it will have a great impact on the reputation of the Jade Emperor in the whole heaven. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. You should know that the Jade Emperor has always been the supreme ruler. What can he not do? But he wanted to catch Wu Yu but couldn't, and he had to force him to surrender by catching Wu Yu's ordinary fairy sister Wu Yu. This almost shows that if it weren't so despicable, the Jade Emperor couldn't even catch Wu Yu. It's hard to see that this will have a great impact on the reputation of the Jade Emperor. It turns out that there are people that the Jade Emperor can't catch in the heaven. In any case, whether Wu Yu was negligent or the Jade Emperor was too despicable, the current situation is already like this, and Wu Yu has to think carefully to face it. Since they caught my sister, I have to go up with them. Wu Yu was extremely calm in his heart and began to think. But if he followed these emperors to see the Jade Emperor, he would definitely die, and he might even suffer unimaginable punishment. In comparison, death might be considered a good thing. Wu Yu naturally did not want to encounter such a situation. Since that is the case, there are so many important gods and goddesses here, why not capture them all, use them as hostages, and exchange Sister Wu Yu back? Wu Yu looked around, looking at the powerful emperors and immortals in the sky. These emperors and immortals have very important positions in the entire heaven. If any one of them is missing, it will cause a big change in the entire heaven. In this situation, Wu Yu had a crazy idea in his mind. He wanted to capture all these emperors and immortals. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1777. Wu Yu's eyes were full of madness. However, in the madness, he was absolutely calm and rational. He knew very well that his only way now was to capture these emperors and exchange his sister Wu Yu with the Jade Emperor. So he had to do crazy things in the name of madness. Want to catch me? Then come on. Whoever runs away is a grandson. Wu Yu snorted coldly, suppressing a kind of anger in his pupils. Go. When Wu Yu said this, Erlang Shenyang Jian, tower-bearing heavenly King Li Jing, etc., all sneered. They did not take action for the time being, but let countless heavenly soldiers and generals around them attack Wu Yu in a black mass. These heavenly soldiers and generals, densely packed, a full 100,000 in number, and each of them is at the level of emperors. Although they are only the most ordinary emperors, they are definitely not to be underestimated when added together. At least the 4 heavenly kings and the ancient giant spirits can never withstand the siege of these heavenly soldiers and generals, and they will even be completely suppressed in a moment. Even if they were at the level of Erlang Shenyang Jian and the pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li Jing, they would definitely have to retreat in the face of 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. In their eyes, they didn't need to take action to capture Wu Yu, they could just let the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals take action. Each heavenly soldiers had reached the realm of Emperor Immortal, but they were all at the first level of Emperor Immortal. And each heavenly general was at least at the second level of Emperor Immortal, and there might even be heavenly generals at the third level of Emperor Immortal. Each of them possessed extremely powerful strength. 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals gathered together, and could even form some immortal formations, bursting out with power far exceeding their own. At this moment, the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals swept directly towards Wu Yu. The air of immortal spirits filled the sky, like a tsunami wave, surging in. These forces were completely gathered together, and they could completely submerge the Emperor Immortals at the level of Erlang Shenyang Jian, and this was not the strongest strength of the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. The densely packed heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals at the Emperor Immortal level surrounded Wu Yu. Wu Yu, holding the Ruyijing Gubang, stood resolutely in the air with his eyes flashing with golden light. Kill! With his roar, countless hairs all over his body fell out, and each of these hairs turned into an extra-legal clone that looked exactly like him. Divine power, extra-legal clone, and this was an extraordinary divine power that he had cultivated to the extreme. With his recent breakthrough to the 6th level of the Eternal Emperor Immortal, the imperial power in his body expanded and soared, and the extra-legal clones he could transform into had exceeded the number of 5 million, even reaching nearly 10 million. At this moment, the nearly 10 million extra-legal clones, almost every one of them was brewing their strongest attack. Each of these clones was comparable to the level of the Emperor Immortal, and even compared to any of the heavenly soldiers, they would not be weaker than them. What's more, compared with the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and generals besieging Wu Yu, the number of Wu Yu's clones was nearly 100 times more. Even if there were some stronger second and third level emperors in the other camp, they could not pose any threat to Wu Yu at all under such a huge number gap. Follow me, shatter the world. Wu Yu clenched his fists, and his pair of golden eyes flashed with golden light, guiding all the lawless clones to blast out the world-shattering fist. At this moment, the void in front of nearly 10 million lawless clones shattered one after another. The infinitely shattered void collapsed completely covering the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and generals. Although these lawless clones completely dissipated after performing only one move, and returned to Wu Yu as hair, but just this one move almost wiped out the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and generals. They finally transformed the power used to attack Wu Yu into a defensive posture, and finally resisted the shattered void power. But at this time, the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and generals had all been broken up and beaten to pieces. All this happened almost in just an instant. When Wu Yu put away his fist and looked up, all the emperors in the sky showed extremely shocked expressions. When Wu Yu's extra-legal clones appeared just now, they only saw these clones of Wu Yu, which filled the entire surrounding world. After one punch, 100,000 heavenly soldiers and generals threw away their armor and were defeated. The almost perfect double attack was broken almost at this moment. How is it possible? This kid is really stronger than before. Let's join forces quickly, otherwise I'm afraid we can't really deal with this guy. Erlang Shenyang Jian, Neza, Pagoda Heavenly King Li Jing and others all looked solemn. They joined forces with other emperors around them and planned to subdue Wu Yu together. Obviously, from the means of the previous move, it can be seen that if these emperors go up alone, they can no longer be Wu Yu's opponents. Even 2 or 3 of them went up, they were simply beaten by Wu Yu. So they can only capture Wu Yu if everyone joins together. Unfortunately, how could they know that Wu Yu's inner thoughts were to capture these emperors and immortals? When all the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and generals were thrown off their armor and were completely blown away by the power of the broken world, Erlang Shen Yang Jian took the lead. Imprisonment I, imprison it for me. The third eye on his forehead finally opened, and this time, he exerted his full strength right from the start. The eye of imprisonment emitted a strange blue light, and instantly a kind of imprisonment force enveloped Wu Yu's location. He wanted to imprison Wu Yu first, and then let other emperors take action to completely subdue Wu Yu. In this way, he would be the first to capture Wu Yu. But he really underestimated Wu Yu. Once upon a time, the power of his heavenly eye was fully exploded, and he and Neza could not defeat Wu Yu together, let alone now. At this moment, Wu Yu has broken through to the 6th level of the Emperor Immortal. In his heaven-devouring Emperor realm, the river of time has been created. In the heaven realm, the number of gods and immortals is increasing day by day, which makes his power stronger and stronger. The power of the Emperor realm is always in a state of continuous strengthening. When the power of the Eye of Imprisonment enveloped him, Wu Yu just waved the Ruyi Jinggu Bang in his hand easily. The sky is falling and the earth is splitting. When the stick was swept out, a burst of golden light burst out, and the golden stick shadow completely smashed the enveloping restraining force into dust. And Erlang Shen's third eye seemed to be severely damaged, and blood oozed out instantly, making him cover his forehead and scream. Attack! Seeing this, the other emperors did not dare to hesitate any more. While Wu Yu's Ruyi Jinggu Bang had not been retracted, they attacked almost at the same time. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1778. Give Me Your Life. Taiwan Novel Network. Rightward arrow. The pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li Jing had a deep grudge against Wu Yu. He took the lead, and the epic artifact in his hand, the Linglong Pagoda, instantly grew larger, almost forming a small world, and suppressed the area where Wu Yu was. This Linglong Pagoda is an extremely mysterious epic artifact. This bang suppressed it, and it brought a vortex of fairy spirit, and the majestic force almost shattered the space. Give it to me, break it. Wu Yu's pupils flashed with golden light, and then there was a burning sky flame burning in the void. He just glared, and a burst of burning sky flames burned around the Linglong Pagoda, burning violently. Under the impact of the burning sky flame, the Linglong Pagoda could not suppress the area where Wu Yu was at all, and was completely blocked by the burning sky flame in mid-air. No, come back. Feeling that the Linglong Pagoda was actually being burned, and countless immortal formations were being burned and destroyed, the pagoda-bearing heavenly king was immediately distressed and took the Linglong Pagoda back immediately. Seeing that the attacks of Erlang Shen and the pagoda-bearing heavenly king had no effect, the other emperors and immortals finally joined forces. They also realized that if they did not join forces today, they would never be able to arrest Wu Yu. So although it would be very embarrassing, they had to join forces. Neza's 4 epic artifacts, at this time, joined forces: the Kinkan Circle, the Chaos Ribbon, the Flame Gun, and the Wind Fire Wheel, gathered in the air to form a terrifying vortex of immortal spirits. The Eastern Kongjin Saint Emperor waved his hand, and the Kongjin Great Handprint descended from the sky, bringing a burst of Holy Spirit light. The Kongjin Great Seal was a bit like the Holy Buddha Dharma that Wu Yu had seen in the Tianfo Immortal Realm, but the Eastern Kongjin Saint Emperor Seal still belonged to the category of the Emperor Immortal Divine Art, which was very different from the principle of the Holy Buddha Dharma. Of course, as an Emperor Immortal of the same level as Erlang Shen Yang Jian and the Pagoda Heavenly King Li Jing, the Eastern Kongjin Saint Emperor Seal was absolutely powerful. Huangji Tai's Hangjinshan. At the same time, the Huangji Huangjiao Great Immortal in the center turned into a golden giant beast, bathed in a burst of brilliant golden light, rotating to form a golden storm, sweeping towards Wu Yu. The Huangji Huangjiao Great Immortal in the center, his means are family inheritance. Once upon a time, during the Emperor Immortal trial, his son Zhang was the means of the Warring States period Huangji Tai's Hangjinshan, but at that time he still lost to Erlang Shen's son Yang Jian. However, now, the difference between the Huangji Supreme Golden Body displayed by the Huangjiao Immortal of the Central Huangji is so huge that it is like two completely different means. After the Huangjiao Immortal of the Central Huangji transformed into a giant yellow-horned beast, his whole body was extremely hard. This is the real indestructible golden body. Under the same realm, almost no force can break his defense. This naturally includes the current Wu Yu. However, corresponding to the strong defense, the offensiveness of the Huangjiao Immortal of the Central Huangji is not as strong as that of other emperors after the Huangjiao Immortal of the Central Huangji transformed into a giant yellow-horned beast. In this melee siege, the Huangjiao Immortal of the Central Huangji chose to protect himself first. He transformed into a giant beast and rushed towards Wu Yu, which brought him a lot of pressure from the momentum. In addition, there are two emperors, Lei Gong and Dian Mu, in the field, and they are also joining forces at this moment. When the couple join hands, they can call the wind and rain. In the whole void, thunder trembles, lightning flashes, and countless lightning snakes fall from the sky, rushing towards Wu Yu below at a high speed. Lei Gong and Dian Mu, the couple, still remember the scene when Wu Yu defeated their son Lei Tianyuan during the Emperor Immortal trial, and they have never had a good impression of Wu Yu. Not to mention that Wu Yu has now stolen all the peaches, violated the heavenly rules, and become the public enemy of all the emperors in the heavenly court. Now is the time to beat the fallen dog. As long as Wu Yu is caught, they can also reward him in front of the Jade Emperor. As for the four heavenly kings and the ancient giant spirit, they dare not move forward at this time. For them, the battle between Wu Yu and the seventh level of the Emperor Immortal is far beyond their level. Once they get close, they will die, and even if they are affected, they will be completely destroyed. This made them all watch the show from the sidelines and cheer for the emperors. The emperors of the seventh level of the realm used their most powerful means. At this moment, the sky and earth in the entire heavenly palace changed color, and the extremely terrifying power shook the surrounding space, and all the scenes in the void even became distorted. That was because the light between heaven and earth was affected by this gathered power and completely distorted. Under the lightning and thunder, the whole sky became extremely dim. Kongjin's handprint covered the sky. The vortex of the immortal spirit of Neza's four epic artifacts roared in the air, blowing away the surrounding heavenly soldiers and generals. And the golden yellow-horned giant beast rushed in the void and rushed towards Wu Yu. Relying on its indestructible defense, it was not afraid that Wu Yu would kill him. Facing all this, Wu Yu was already in the center of the storm, but he was not afraid. He had seen such power as early as Zi Ming Tian. The same level of power is useless after he has another breakthrough. In his eyes, relying on the Ruyi golden cudgel in his hand can make all this disappear. Violence. Wu Yu's whole body grew larger, his pupils shone with golden light, and the golden light all over his body increased dramatically. Optimus Prime. The Ruyi golden cudgel bloomed with golden light that illuminated the heaven and earth, and in the eyes of all the surrounding emperors and immortals, it broke through the void and swept out. At this moment, it seemed that only the golden stick shadow was left in the world. First of all, the golden and yellow-horned giant beast that rushed closest was blown away, and its body instantly hit the ground at the bottom of the heavenly palace, creating a huge deep pit. Immediately afterwards, the Chang'an Big Hand seal of Dongfang Chang'an Holy Emperor was swept away by the stick and broke into two parts from the center. Neza's four epic artifacts combined with the condensed spiritual energy storm were completely blown away by the Ruyi golden cudgel, and the four epic artifacts flew out of control one after another to an unknown distance. As for the offensive of the Thunder God and Lightning Mother, the bombardment on the golden stick shadow did not pose any threat to it at all. In the end, with one sweep of the stick, everything was settled. The Erlang God Yang Jian, the three altar sea gods Neza, the Tota King Li Jing, Dongfang Chang'an Saint Emperor, the central Huangji Huangjiao Immortal, and the Thunder God and Lightning Mother, under the siege of many emperors and immortals, were all shocked by Wu Yu's stick. Got dizzy. Nightmare Prayer Immortal Text. Wu Yu didn't even have time to sigh, so he began to recite the immortal mantra of Nightmare Prayer, and performed the Nightmare Prayer technique among the 72 transformations. The sound of the Nightmare Prayer immortal words spread out, instantly causing all the surrounding Emperor Immortals to fall into thousands of illusions. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1779. Of course Wu Yu would not kill these emperors. For him, these emperors could be used to exchange for the safety of his sister Wu Yu. So he controlled all these emperors with the Nightmare Prayer technique, and then trapped them all in his heaven-devouring emperor realm. As long as Wu Yu was not dead, they could not get out at all. This was Wu Yu's bargaining chip for negotiating with the Jade Emperor in the Heavenly Palace. Just as Wu Yu was about to go to the Well of Eternal Life and head towards the Upper Heavenly Palace, a huge diamond circle suddenly appeared between the heaven and earth in front of him. As soon as the diamond circle appeared, it enveloped the entire world, and the magnificent momentum descended from the sky, sealing off all the space in this heavenly palace. Even Wu Yu was restricted for a while, and he could not leave here by any means. This made Wu Yu's face darken. It seemed that a super powerful emperor appeared, and it was obviously his enemy. I wonder who is coming? He looked towards the diamond circle emitting thousands of feet of brilliant light, and saw a top emperor immortal he had met before. It turned out to be the Tai's Hanglejun. Wu Yu, turn back. As soon as the Tai's Hanglejun appeared, he was the image of a saint, and persuaded Wu Yu earnestly, if you can take the initiative to apologize to the Jade Emperor, maybe there is still hope of survival, don't be stubborn. You know it yourself that it is impossible to be an enemy of the entire heaven. Seeing the Tai's Hanglejun he had met once appeared, Wu Yu said in a deep voice, once I see the Jade Emperor, there will definitely be no good end. By then, I am afraid that my sister Wu Yu will not be rescued, and I will also be in trouble. Naturally, he didn't want to see Wu Yu get into trouble, but at the same time, he had to take care of his own safety. Because once he died, he would have no control over the lives and safety of everyone else. By then, it is very likely that except Wu Yu, even Luo Ben, Nanshan Wanjiao, and Yazixi would not be able to escape. Therefore, Wu Yu would act cautiously, first controlling the group of emperors with the Nightmare Prayer technique, and trapping them in his heaven-devouring emperor realm, using this as a bargaining chip for negotiation with the Jade Emperor. Seeing Wu Yu's attitude, Tai's Hanglejun was quite helpless. In this case, I can only offend you. He just raised his hand and released an epic artifact. This epic artifact is a golden bracelet, called Vajra Cutter, which is an epic artifact with special means. When the Vajra Cutter was used, Wu Yu didn't know how powerful it was, so he made a quick decision and swung the Ruyi golden cudgel and smashed it down. In Wu Yu's opinion, he can now easily defeat the emperors of Yangjian and Nezha's level, so facing the Tai's Hanglejun of a higher level, he will not be unable to resist, at least he can fight one or two. If Tai's Hanglejun can also be controlled by the Nightmare Prayer technique, he will have a bigger bargaining chip when he goes to the Heavenly Palace to meet the Jade Emperor. But he obviously underestimated the top Emperor Immortals of the level of Tai's Hanglejun, as well as the means and epic artifacts they possessed. A pillar supporting the sky. Wu Yu used the power of heaven and earth, and his whole body changed to the maximum. He held the Ruyi Jingbang, and his whole body emitted 1,000 feet of golden light, and smashed it down at Tai's Hanglejun. This stick simply shattered the surrounding void, and the golden stick shadow fell, almost shaking the entire heavenly palace. Collect. But Tai's Hanglejun was not afraid of this stick. He looked extremely calm, and just threw the diamond cutter out, but saw that the diamond cutter quickly grew larger in the air, and actually covered the entire Ruyi-Jingbang in it. The next moment, Wu Yu suddenly realized that the entire Ruyi-Jingbang had lost control. When he realized that something was wrong, he immediately wanted to retract the Ruyi-Jingbang, but he didn't have time. So, he could only watch the Ruyi-Jingbang being taken away by the Vajra cutter and disappearing from his sight. What? Wu Yu's face showed shock. How could he have thought that the Taizhanglajun actually possessed such a magical weapon that could directly take away the Ruyi-Jingbang he was using? In this way, Wu Yu's hands were empty, which made him quite uncomfortable for a while. Old Taoist, this is the Vajra cutter, which can take away all weapons. Wu Yu, why don't you surrender quickly? The Taizhanglajun said lightly, taking back the Vajra cutter and shrinking it in his hand. As for where the Ruyi-Jingbang went, Wu Yu really didn't see it. Anyway, it was no longer in his hand, so it must have been in the hands of the Taizhanglajun. It was impossible for Wu Yu to surrender at this time. Even if he lost the Ruyi-Jingbang, he would never admit defeat. Then, his whole body changed, and he turned into the image of a swallowing beast, wanting to fight in the form of a swallowing beast. Swallow it! Wu Yu turned into a giant beast and roared, rushing towards Taizhanglajun. However, Taizhanglajun saw this and just threw the diamond cutter in his hand again. Then Wu Yu felt that the diamond cutter had completely entangled his body of swallowing the sky, and an unimaginable sealing force was transmitted to him, completely controlling him in place. Somersault Cloud. Wu Yu subconsciously wanted to use the magical power of Somersault Cloud, but at this time he found that after being entangled by the diamond cutter, he couldn't even use Somersault Cloud, and there was no possibility of escape at all. Wu Yu gritted his teeth. He now understood that a top ancient emperor immortal like Taizhanglajun was indeed too terrifying. The means he possessed were definitely beyond what he could imagine now. There is no doubt that he was fully loaded this time. In fact, when Taizhanglajun first appeared, he had no chance. It's just that he wanted to fight once to see if he could find a way out, but he found that he was no match for Taizhanglajun. Come with me and go to Lingxiao Palace. In this way, Taizhanglajun entangled Wu Yu with the diamond sword and completely controlled him, making it impossible for him to escape. Then, he took him into the well of eternal life and quickly rushed towards the highest level of heaven. After Wu Yu was controlled by King Kongzhou, he still refused to give up and kept struggling to perform Somersault Cloud. Unfortunately, no matter what, he could not escape from King Kongzhou's control. But he didn't have any fear, only resentment towards the Jade Emperor. It is simply ridiculous that the Lord of the entire heaven would threaten him with a tiny ordinary god. In his heaven-swallowing emperor realm, there are also many important emperor immortals from heaven such as Neza, Yang Jian, and Li Jing. These emperor immortals are what he relies on to negotiate with the Jade Emperor after he ascends to heaven. It can be said that life and death of these emperor immortals in his heaven-devouring emperor realm are in his hands. He did not believe that the Jade Emperor would disregard the lives of these emperors, so Wu Yu would not necessarily be at a disadvantage when the two parties negotiated. Not long after, Wu Yu was pestered by King Kongzhou, followed Taizhanglajun, and finally came to Nantianmen again. Passing through the Nantian Gate is the Lingxiao Palace where the Jade Emperor is located, the highest point in the entire heaven. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1780. Lingxiao Palace. The last time Wu Yu came here was because Tai Genren complained to the Jade Emperor. That time, Wu Yu was in a very bad state when he came here. No one thought that he would have a good ending after coming to Lingxiao Palace. However, in the end, he became the first disciple of the Jade Emperor, was named Great Sage equaling Heaven, was awarded Saint equaling Heaven, and was assigned the good job of guarding the Peach Garden. Unfortunately, it was because of this incident, and finally because of the devouring heaven demon ancestor, that he ended up like this. He was hunted down by the entire heavenly court and became a sinner who committed a heinous crime in the eyes of the Jade Emperor. He even dispatched 100,000 heavenly soldiers and generals to capture him. It can be said that in this heavenly court, success and failure are all due to the heavenly rules. Almost everything in the entire heavenly court is controlled by the Jade Emperor alone. No matter who it is, they will become rich and noble because of his words and achieve a position against the heaven. There will also be people who will die directly because of his thoughts, suffer eternal torture, and live in darkness in this life. The Jade Emperor is the supreme ruler of the entire heaven. No one dares to disobey his orders. And now, he ordered the arrest of Wu Yu, but Wu Yu dared to resist, and beat all the heavenly soldiers and generals, and even took Yang Jian, Neza, Li Jing, and others as hostages. Such a series of events is simply lawless. When Tai's Hang Lejun took Wu Yu into the Lingxiao Palace, all the emperors in the Lingxiao Palace turned their eyes. The Jade Emperor, the Queen Mother, the Fire Dance Phoenix Emperor and other emperors were all present. Among them, the Jade Emperor and the Queen Mother looked cold and still had some anger, but they did not show it so obviously. They were in charge of the heavenly court, but there was such a lawless person as Wu Yu, who disregarded the law and violated the heavenly rules at will. Isn't this a slap in their faces? They certainly couldn't feel any better. But the Fire Dance Phoenix Emperor looked at Wu Yu, who was entangled by the diamond cutter and couldn't move, with a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. Originally, in her opinion, Wu Yu might be a super genius whose talent far exceeded hers. Under normal circumstances, no matter how much she practiced, she would never be able to surpass Wu Yu in her lifetime. But in such a good situation, Wu Yu didn't cherish it. He dared to steal all the peaches in the peach garden and made a heinous mistake. In the eyes of the Fire Dance Phoenix Emperor, Wu Yu completely ruined himself because of greed. She thought that maybe Wu Yu thought that he could do whatever he wanted in the heavenly court after becoming a disciple of the Jade Emperor. Too naive. Seeing Wu Yu in such a miserable state, the Fire Dance Phoenix Emperor sneered, without any sympathy at all, but rather a kind of gloating. Wu Yu, you have committed a serious mistake. Not only did you steal all the peaches in the peach garden, you even made a scene in the heavenly palace and injured many heavenly soldiers and generals. How shameful! The Jade Emperor said seriously, now, why don't you release Erlang Shen and the others? Since you are my disciple, I may be able to give you a lighter sentence for your many crimes. Otherwise, you will be severely punished according to the heavenly law. At this point, I didn't expect the Jade Emperor to still want to play the emotional card and say that Wu Yu is his disciple or something. How could Wu Yu believe it? If the Jade Emperor really regarded him as a disciple, he would never have captured his sister Wu Yu and used Wu Yu as a hostage. So Wu Yu didn't take him seriously at all, and said directly, if you want me to release Erlang Shen and others, then release my sister first. Otherwise, you can just assume that Erlang Shen, Tota Heavenly King and others are dead. In his heaven-swallowing emperor realm, he did control too many emperors and immortals. Among them are Erlang Shen Yang Jian, Neza, Tota Heavenly King Li Jing, such as the Eastern Kongjin Saint Emperor, Central Huangji Huangjiao Great Immortal, etc. There are also the 4 heavenly kings and the ancient giant spirit god, all of whom were easily controlled by Wu Yu. These emperors and immortals together are indeed very important to the entire heavenly court. So Wu Yu is absolutely sure that the Jade Emperor will never ignore the lives of these emperors and immortals. Okay, send a message to the heavenly prison to release the lower immortal Wu Yu. The Jade Emperor made a prompt decision and issued an order. For him, Wu Yu has already appeared in front of him, and there is no point in imprisoning Wu Yu, so it doesn't matter if she is released. But Wu Yu didn't believe the Jade Emperor. He said sternly, I want to see my sister safe and sound, otherwise, you can wait to see the bodies of Erlang Shen and the others. The Jade Emperor thought for a moment and issued a new order, bring up the lower immortal Wu Yu. At this time, seeing that Wu Yu dared to speak to the Jade Emperor with such an attitude and tone, all the emperors and immortals in the Lingxiao Palace whispered to each other. In their eyes, Wu Yu was really bold and had no manners at all. Not only did he violate the rules of heaven, but he didn't even repent. It seems that Wu Yu doesn't admit his mistakes at all. The Fire Dance Phoenix Emperor also sneered. For her, the more arrogant Wu Yu's attitude was, the more she liked it. After all, the more violent Wu Yu made trouble, the more severe the punishment would be, and he might even never be able to turn over. She didn't think that Wu Yu could have any way to surpass the level of the Jade Emperor and escape the control of the entire heaven. Soon after the Jade Emperor gave the order, someone came in to report that Wu Yu had arrived. In the entire Lingxiao Palace, basically only Wu Yu was in a relatively excited mood. After all, a tiny immortal like Wu Yu had no meaning at all to other emperors. For Wu Yu, this was his sister whom he valued very much. She was his biological sister whom he would not allow anyone to hurt since he was born. When Wu Yu came to the Lingxiao Palace, her originally beautiful face had now become a little haggard. No one knew what kind of torture she had suffered in the heavenly prison. She was just an extremely tiny immortal. In the words of the Jade Emperor, she was a lower immortal, and she was at the bottom of the entire heavenly court. It was equivalent to an ordinary civilian girl in the folk. Even in the eyes of many emperors, Wu Yu was not even as good as a civilian girl, and was just like an ant. After all, the emperors were immortal, and a lower immortal like Wu Yu would soon die of exhaustion. It was such a tiny existence that was captured by the Jade Emperor and used to threaten Wu Yu. This made Wu Yu fully understand the Jade Emperor's meanness. Wu Yu looked a little worried. She came to the Lingxiao Palace and saw Wu Yu entangled by the diamond cutter. She was terrified. For her, the Lingxiao Palace was a place she could not imagine. Not to mention, she actually saw the embarrassed Wu Yu here. How could she not be worried?